So we got the front differential done, new brakes, new axle seals, new ball joints, all that jazz. So we basically got to do the same thing back here, except there isn't any ball joints. So that's what the plan is for right now. I started taking the diff cover off to let the mud drain out of it, and there's, I don't know, there's 2 or 3 bolts that are round. But anyways, I gotta figure out how to get those other couple bolts out to drain the stuff out of it. So let me figure out what I'm gonna do first. If it's gonna be put this motorcycle back together, which is, the answer to that is yes. I'm gonna do that right now. And then we'll figure this out. Just like that, motorcycle wheel is back on and it's out of my way. Back over here with the other motorcycle that I never ride. This is a full floater rear end. So we gotta pull the axles out. So I'm gonna tear this apart tonight. Go order parts in the morning.
That was cool. That's got a big limited slip differential inside there.
I'm not 100% sure what I'm looking at right now, but I'm pretty sure this is some sort of limited slip differential. That oil looked better than the front one. At least it was oil. We'll get the axles out and then look into tearing that out, see what we're gonna end up with. So you take the axle out and then the rest comes off similar or the same as the front. There's an outer nut, a lock washer, and then like an inner thrust nut. I'm not sure what it's called. This is my custom hub nut socket. Gasket came off. That's actually in decent shape. I think typically, like on a big truck, oil would come out of here because that's what lubricates your bearings. Just an inner or outer bearing, just like on the front here. And I pull that off of there and just face down in this bucket in case there is any oil in it. There's not. We're getting new drums. Just gotta knock the studs out from the other side. And then this drum will drop off the hub. Do you notice anything else? There's no things in there. So we'll need all new shoes. We'll get 2 new drums, new seals, inner and outer bearings, just like the front. We got a wheel cylinder for the brakes. So that's that. I'm gonna go tear apart the other side and make a list of everything I need for tomorrow. That definitely needs to come out of there. This thing here, somehow or another, it's holding it in there. Oh, no, it's not. It just goes in like that. I don't understand why the that's stuck in there. It's moving a little bit, but it's like
That's supposed to go to the side? This thing spins. That's how you set the lash. You see that?
This is the craziest setup I've ever seen, mostly because I've never been inside of this particular differential. I have no idea what it is. This collar spins. That's kind of how the actual carrier was kept in there. That I've never seen one. I've always just pulled apart 10 bolts and stuff. They're simple. And this one is simple if you know about it. I'm not sure if there's supposed to be a seal in there or not. There's no seal there. So I guess we lucked out as far as having to change the seals in there. I'm like torn. Like, I'm glad there's no wheel seals to change. But this setup, to me, because I've never seen it before, is mind-boggling. As you can see, I got the whole kit and caboodle tore down. Hubs removed from the drums, bearings and races removed from the hubs, differential out of the housing. Now I'm going to scrub everything down, get part numbers, and head on down to the parts store and see what I can find. Hopefully it'll be as easy as it was with the front axle, which was surprising. All right, I'm going to town. I'll be back in a few hours. Well, I had to take the backing plate off for the brakes to get the wheel cylinder off. The bolts were all rusted, deteriorated. They were almost gone, so I had to grind the rest of them off. It's actually a couple days later. Got all my parts. This is actually the only thing I couldn't find at my local Napa, the wheel cylinder to apply the brakes. I forgot about that. I'll have to go in the house and check. Maybe LMC. She didn't have a listing for it. So, spring kit, brake adjusters, wheel seals, inner bearings, outer bearings, brake shoes, brake drums. That's all going on here today. Got some hardware and a pile of gasoline here, like wheel studs, hub keepers. I need to get that shit out of there, clean the inside of these hubs out. If you've ever done old school bearings that were not the unit bearing style, you get a race, you get a bearing. The inner bearing goes in here, you put a seal on it, you flip the hub around, put it on, you put the seal in, you put the race in with the outer bearing as you're assembling the hub. That's not how this one works. Everything goes in from the back side, so I gotta pound the outer race, yeah, that's some crazy stuff. I have to make sure I do that right. So I wound up putting that bitch in backwards. So you gotta make sure you put your bearing in and then put the race in. And then there's a little clip that goes behind the race. And then you pound in your inner bearing race, put the bearing in, and then pound the seal in. It can't fall out the bottom. The hole's not big enough, which is also why it can't go in from the bottom. Keeping China in business. Despite my well put together plan to put the bearing in the proper way, while I was pounding the race into place, that damn bearing spun over and is upside down in there now. I wouldn't have it any other way. Probably can't tell that it's upside down, but I can tell. So I'm gonna destroy that race, put the bearing in upside right, and see if I can screw it up again. Okay, there's a groove in there. You gotta get that race down past that groove in order to get this keeper in. The bearing is in the way it's supposed to be. Definitely. Trying to make sure the race is up against that keeper. You can check that with a pick like this. Once your bearing's in there, you can kind of see if that goes underneath it. The inner bearing race goes in first. That side in. You can see that bearing is in there the right way. Here's your little keeper ears. I don't know if we can see them. But so that goes in like that, and the bearing goes in, and then a seal. Rear brake drum. That's for an 11-inch brake versus a 13-inch brake, because those are your options when you're digging into this. 11-inch brake has this step in it. The 13-inch brake is more flat. Like this doesn't stick out as far. Trying to see if there's any distinguishing way. I doubt it. Just line up the holes where the studs go, and then the studs literally, the studs are knurled right here. That's what keeps that brake drum on the hub. So I got the two in there. Basically to show you what we got going on here. You can put a washer over this and put a lug nut on it backwards so the flat part is up against. You run that in and that'll kind of true them up if they're tipped in one way or the other, which shouldn't be, but I have one like that on the front that I got to address. I know, they're not safe. Who cares? These are 8x6.5 because they're Chevy, and these are 8x170 millimeter. So that's why I'm adapting. So I guess all I'm telling you is if you're using spacers, maybe test fit it. perfect. These are made by Custom Offsets. Okay, that's a pretty big name in the tire and wheel market. They're not Chinese. They're made in America. They got the hub-centric lip. So the adapter is hub-centric to the truck. And then when you put your wheel on there, see this, the wheel is gonna set right on there, nice and cozy. That way, the weight of the truck ain't just on the lug nuts. You can get away with it, and a lot of people do. Like I said, they're not safe. I believe that. If you buy the cheap ones, if you buy that China-made stuff and put your life against it, that's a mistake. These were pricey. They weren't cheap. They weren't really that expensive, but they weren't Chinese cheap either. So if you can, spring for the better stuff, especially like that. But I can't put any of this any farther together, like on here, because I'm waiting for wheel cylinders for the brakes. Tomorrow, my plan is to tear this truck apart. This truck runs and drives, but it's got lots of problems, like flat tire. Can't drive that. No, the lift pump in the fuel tank is not communicating with the computer. It runs, like the lift pump runs. You can hear it running clear as day, has fuel in it. But it isn't turning on the CP3. Doesn't matter. This truck was from the beginning. I've had this truck for like 6 years. It's a Cummins. Got a 6-speed standard in it. Window won't roll up. The plan for this has always been to take the body off and put the deuce on there. It's real rusty, real bad. Nothing in the cab electrically works because oxidation of the TIPM. So this is going to be my Saturday game, which happens to be tomorrow. I'll have a different video for that, but that's going to be coming up. So this is a 1973 only. The holes here and here, they're on the bottom of the backing plate. So if you put the holes on the bottom, they're different side to side. And the lock washer. I haven't tore the other side apart yet, specifically, so I could use it as a model for over here. Let's see, the long shoes on the back. Now, we're going off this as if the person who did this last time did it the right way, okay? All right, got all these brakes together. I had to get a little learning on a few things, like one side gets a green spring, one side gets a yellow spring. These little cup things that go in behind the springs are like a space filler in the shoe that helps get the shoe centered up, which also helps all these springs have the right tension on them. So that's nice. Don't worry about the emergency brake cable parts that weren't over there. They're not important. I got them over here. So this piece, this spreader bar, stabilizer bar, separating bar, and the actual activating lever that you hook your cable to is in there, but they're missing on the other side because all the brake hardware on the other side was MIA when I opened it up. Okay, So the brakes are all on. I'm gonna do a little bit of cleaning up here. I don't need all these tools, and then put the drums on, which is gonna lead us to wheels. And then this whole thing gonna be back on the ground. This ain't like your regular drum, like brake drum. When you put this on, it's essentially an inboard brake, like those Lucas Erling brakes on that Ford tilt bed I had. There's a video about that. You gotta take the axle out. You gotta take the hub off. I got the brake drums on all the way. Unfortunately, I forgot to turn the camera on. Now I'm gonna come in here. Had the wife cleaning this up with the gas bath while I was putting the drums on and the hubs, but I have to take these out. I've decided this is what they use to set the gear lash with the third member and the pinion. Clean that all up in there on both sides, put it back together, and then I'm gonna screw up putting this back in so it gets destroyed. I do not know what I'm doing here, so don't be looking for advice through this video. I guess that's gonna be it for right now, because I got a lot more stuff I gotta get doing. So I guess thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.